And so I'm sat there in my healing rift, everything's around me, I know it's bad, but I'm just chucking out fire, I can see that I'm burning, but the weapon just keeps churning, and I'm like, this is fine. Hello everyone, it's Truds here, and today we've got another amazing Destiny 2 build just for you. If you've been following the channel recently, you'll know that we've been going into some super strong builds across all classes this season, using the new Warmind mods and a mix of old exotics. And if you haven't been following, what the hell do you think you're doing? All jokes aside, if you haven't been following, then get in here, click that subscribe button and help a fellow guardian out. I don't bite, I promise. Today we're going to be looking at two new exotics, well, kind of new, and how you can use these to become an anti-meta god. So if you want to stand out from the crowd while slaying out, then stick around to find out how in this video. There's one specific perk that is actually insane with this build, which is one you won't want to miss out on, especially if you want to run endgame content, and if I'm honest, is kind of broken, which is an overused word, but you're going to want to see it. As with the new season pass, each season we get a new exotic weapon to play with. Eriana's Vow, Symmetry and the latest Tommy's Matchbook are all amazing unique weapons in their own right, all bringing something new to the table. But for this build we're going to be using Tommy's Matchbook, the 720 RPM exotic auto rifle from Season of the Worthy, and we're leaning into its unique if somewhat unusual perk, something which we haven't seen the likes of since Destiny 1 The Taken King with the touch of Malice, an all-time favourite among Destiny veterans. Ignition Trigger is the intrinsic perk where sustained fire with this weapon overheats it, increasing damage but also burning the user. It comes with standard barrel and magazine options as well as hand-laid stock to improve the recoil. But it also has the unique trait of Heat Sink, which reduces overheat damage from Ignition Trigger when not aiming down sights. So like we said, it's a unique weapon in Destiny 2, which much like its D1 predecessor, damages the user whilst increasing its damage output. The actual increase to damage with Ignition Trigger is nearly double as well, which is the largest single buff on any weapon. Unlike Touch of Malice though, this weapon won't kill you by itself, but it'll definitely leave you exposed to even the smallest of small stubbing of your toes. Although this weapon isn't quite in the meta, 720s did get a good buff this season, and so it makes Tommy's Matchbook a very viable option for high sustained damage in both PvP and PvE. So to make this weapon viable without being absolute and one shot all of the time, we're going to need to build into some healing aspects. There's a few that spring to mind, but as usual we're going for the ever trusty Warlock with this one, thanks to their numerous healing capabilities. And there isn't a better exotic out there at the moment that benefits the Warlock's healing abilities than Sanguine Alchemy. This exotic chest armour is from Destiny 2's Warmind expansion in Year 1 and recently got a rework to its intrinsic perk in Season of the Worthy. Blood Magic now pauses and extends the timer of rifts with weapon kills while standing inside one. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. The perk icon will show up in the tooltip lasting for about 6 seconds, with each kill will refresh the timer and extend it, therefore delaying the timer of your rift ability. Look at this rift I created in the forge, it should last 15 seconds, but thanks to Blood Magic it lasted way longer. It's especially handy in a healing rift when combined with Tommy's Matchbook, as it 100% negates the self-damaging effect from Ignition Trigger whilst allowing you to benefit from the near double increase in the damage output of the weapon. So now we've got the basics of the rift combo down with Tommy's Matchbook, we're now going into the ultimate healing subclass with the Dawnblade's Attunement of Grace. There's lots of great aspects of this subclass that benefit both solo and team play and work very nicely in PvE as well as the Crucible. Benevolent Dawn is the main perk we want to proc as often as possible here, as when you heal or empower allies it will regenerate grenade, melee and rift energy for a short time. You can simply proc this by throwing down a healing rift on a point where your allies are likely to come by, whether that is on a control spot in Crucible or as you push through a Nightfall boss encounter. One thing to notice with Benevolent Dawn is if you stand in your rift after proccing it, the timer won't actually count down. It'll stay at 6 seconds the whole time the rift is active. This is therefore buffing the recharge rate of all your abilities for an extended, if not unlimited, amount of time, with the recharge of your class ability rift again being the most pivotal in this build. It essentially allows you to move from place to place with your team, dropping rift after rift, and with a buff to recharge rates, which when put together with the rest of this build makes it the kind of broken we like to see here. Plus, if you're standing in the rift getting kills with Tommy's Matchbook with Sanguine on, you'll extend the rift timer and therefore improve the chances of benefiting from Benevolent Dawn. I was running a Master Nightmare hunt at nearly 20 levels under, and this little cheese allowed my team to move around the encounters easily, as we knew we could easily heal constantly with an overshield surviving shots that would likely take us down in one. Next up we have Guiding Flame, the melee ability which will inflict burn damage as well as empowering you and allies nearby. This is a great perk as it will buff your damage output for a short time, shown by the empowered icon in the tooltip, which will stack on top of Tommy's Matchbook's increased damage from Ignition Trigger. Lastly, if you're in a sticky situation without a rift, there's Divine Protection, which will allow you to consume your grenade to create a blessing which you can throw down, which when passed through will heal and provide an overshield for you and allies. But that's not it. We've got the big boy rift with Well of Radiance. This somewhat overpowered Warlock super is a nailed on must have for all endgame content. This huge rift heals and empowers everybody standing within its large aura, which also grabs the benefit of Sanguine Alchemy and so can be extended as long as you're getting kills from within it. Remember, all parts of this subclass do proc Benevolent Dawn, which as we have already stated is very strong when used to its full potential. So that's the full cycle of the build, but we want to maximise its effectiveness too, and here is how. Perpetuation is the Void class item mod which will reduce your rift cooldown when using your rift. Seeing as so we want to get our rift as often as possible, this mod is a no-brainer. We also want to spec into our recovery stat to maximise the cooldown of our rift as much as possible, so recovery mods should be used to get this one as high as you can. We're also going to drop some Warmind Cell mods into this one too. We will mainly be dropping Warmind Cells thanks to the Wrath of Rasputin mod, which has a chance to produce a cell on Solar Splash damage final blows. We'll be making these by utilising the Warlock Solar Grenade, as Tommy's and the melee won't count for splash damage. As for the other mods, Fireteam Medic at 3 solar energy is one we haven't used so much so far, but is very handy for endgame content. When you destroy a Warmind Cell, it will create a burst of healing for you and nearby allies. It's not essential here, but just in case you're coming under sustained fire, it can come in clutch. Seeing as so we'll be blowing them up, you might as well add burning cells to cause solar damage over time to enemies. At 3 solar energy, it's a nice touch. But to make this one even more potent, we're throwing in the Rage of the Warmind. This solar affinity mod costs 5 energy and is unlocked once you upgrade the Warmind bunker on the EDZ. This one adds additional solar damage to the explosions of Warmind cells, which even though it is expensive, it does make the explosions a lot more potent damage wise. To make the area of effect even greater, we're going to add in global reach to increase the impact area of them. But honestly, you can put other cell mods in here, but I like to mix it up to see what works. As for the other weapons in a solid loadout, the only one I would recommend would be the new legendary 7th Seraph Saw machine gun in the heavy slot, with either Vorpal or firing line to buff damage output even further, as this weapon will give you a greater chance to proc them Warmind cells in PvE content. This machine gun is unique in the fact that it is the only one in the game which can roll Vorpal or firing line in the final slot. Vorpal will buff the weapon damage against bosses, vehicles and guardians in their supers, whereas firing line will buff damage when you're with 2 or more allies nearby. Both are very useful in all aspects of the game, so if you haven't grinded for one with these roles, then I highly recommend you do this before the season is out. As for this build, it is very fun, yet the jury is still out on Tommy's matchbook for me. This build will work well either with or without the catalyst, but the weapon just feels off. Given its perk is so anti-content, it puts you one shot in most aspects of the game. So unless you build into a super specific healing setup like this, or with Voidwalker's Devour, it really makes it a tough option to use. Alternatively, you could use other exotic primaries which will have the exact same impact in most endgame builds. As we've discussed before, you can essentially turn Sunshot into a Seraph weapon, or you can mow down waves of adds with Risk Runner whilst essentially being immune to incoming arc damage. Both of these come with little to no build impact at all, yet this new season pass one pushes you to do so, which like I said, just feels off. However, it was fun to put this build together, and when it works really well and is genuinely very effective. Let me know what you think of Tommy's matchbook down below in the comments. I'd like to know how you rate it in comparison to the other recent season pass offerings. If you're new around here, please feel free to subscribe. We've got lots of fun builds coming up, so if that's what you like, then we've got you covered. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, then a rating down below is always greatly appreciated. We're closing in on a huge milestone on the channel with 500 subs right around the corner. Let's see if we can push it a little bit closer. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.